And now, after we've had our reflection on what it means to have different triads, or the four basic triads that we have within Western music, between the major triad, minor triad, augmented triad, and diminished triad, I want you to be aware when you're listening to most music in Western terms, the stuff that you're going to run into like all the time, that stuff is going to be easily understood. The chords are going to be easily understood if you understand the basic kind of triad system like I was showing you. So that major triad, minor triad, augmented triad, and diminished triad thing is going to help us a lot when we're actually discovering the kinds of chords that we have when we are discovering our scaled tone triads. Now, scaled tone triads are very, very important for us to understand. If we understand the rules, we can bend them. We can manipulate certain chords to our taste. But for now, what we need to do is learn how do we get our scale tone triads and why is this important. So we've been doing everything in the key of C, and we're going to stay within the key of C just to keep things simple for now, but just know that you can transfer this information to all the other keys that we have within our 12-tone system. And if you understand the ethics or how things work, not ethics, but the framework for other tonal systems, then drop that down in the comments. That would be really, really cool. What I do understand about some systems is they actually understand that their tonal system is worship. Us in the West, we need to understand that that is exactly what it is as well, too. But let's get into it. So we have our C major scale. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to use these notes in order to figure out the roots of each chord. Now, because we're keeping this simple, we're not going to be doing this chromatically, which is totally okay. And it's really simple for us right now, just so that we can get these kind of basic sounds in our ears, in our minds, in our hearts, souls, and be able to share them with other people in worship to the Lord. So now, if I go from that point and I find that each of these starting points is my root of each chord, I will discover I have a C chord, I have a D chord, I have an E chord, an F, a G, an A, a B, and our root chord again, in this case being C. I'm going to play them for you, and then I'm going to explain how we get there. So here we go. So if you were listening to those chords, you might have noticed that there is a tonal difference between each of the chords that I played. Some of them have a very major sound, or some of them have a minor sound. And in our case, specifically, if you were hearing that and you're like, oh man, like I really didn't hear the differences between those pitches, that actually might be a really good thing. It means that potentially you have a pretty good grasp on music already. All we're going to do is kind of break them down and categorize those chords a little bit better within the key of C. So the first chord that I played, obviously in this case, because we're doing major harmony or staying within the key of C major. You'll notice as I play, this is a major third, perfect fifth. And when we put them together, we have that C major chord. Now, as I move up and I play the next chord and I keep that same kind of position with my hand, I will get, if I try to go here where I'm playing my root and then go up here to my minor third, and then I also have a fifth over here, I'm going to get a perfect fifth of D minor. So this chord here is a minor chord. As I move up to the next spot, I have an E minor chord. And I aim to get a little bit more in depth with this after we go through our first pass. So just be attentive to this, and then we'll get into that. Also, don't want to lose too many people because it can get really, really nerdy. So here we go. Then from our F major chord that we're very, very familiar with, the tonal center of the key of C, and G, our fifth chord, major as well, our A minor, which is obviously minor in this case, and then our diminished chord here, our B diminished, and then our C major chord again. When we're playing the notes of our chord, or the notes of our chords, we're appealing to the standard of the major, C major scale. So if I was trying to build a chord from my D kind of position here, in order to have that to be a D major, I would need to play a note that was outside of the scale. So what we're doing when we're building our chords is we're trying to only take from notes that we have within the scale. And you could make this as simple as possible to be where you would think, okay, well, I'm going to only play, because we're only using the notes of C major, I'm going to play one note and then skip a tone and then skip a tone. And you can keep doing that, just starting at a different starting position. Starting note, skip a note, skip a note. Starting note, skip a note, skip a note. And then so on. And those would be the notes that, you know, the Lord has given us within each key. And it's going to be the same kind of pattern when we're using scale tone triads like this for every key. If I do the same thing for, let's say, the key of G, it would be like, only using those notes. I have my starting note, skip a note, skip a note. There's my G major chord. Then next note, skip a note, skip a note. There's my A minor chord. Then for my next chord, I have to remember the scale that I'm playing in, and I know that there's an F sharp, so if I start here, skip a note, and skip a note, I'm going to have a B minor chord right there. You see how that works? And then we just continue to move through. Starting note, skip a note, skip a note. Starting note, skip a note, skip a note. So those would be examples for scale tone triads within the key of C major and the key of G major. And you can also do this with F, of course. And you can do that on your own, or you can hear and see what I'm doing quickly. And to remember, the scale is F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, and F. Whenever we're doing our scale tone triads, just remember that we're building our triads off of the notes from the scale. So, as easy as that. Now, this is really, really important for us to understand, because then when we start figuring out like songs on our own, if we know the key, then we can start like mapping out where most of the chords are going to sit. Back to the world of C, if a song was in the key of C, I would know that if we're just thinking about scale tone triads, just thinking about it at the easiest kind of basic level, I have a C major chord, I have an F major chord, I have a G major chord, and my octave, of course. So if I was playing a song that is going to like be in the key of C and it has like really like bright and happy sounding chords, then I could have a really good chance, and if it's super easy as well. Most songs tend to be today, but I see that some things are changing. But if you have that kind of happy sound, then you can assume safely that you're probably going to be playing a C, an F, and a G in that progression. Now, let's say it's a little bit more complicated and you have more than 3 chords. And let's say, you know, like not every song has to have more than 3 chords, you know, like sometimes 3 chords and the truth is like really, really cool. And, you know, we have a lot of beautiful music, especially folk music and blues music that is built around that kind of bread and butter approach. But anyway, we have 3 major chords within the scale tone triads of the key of C, and we have 3 minor chords, being D minor, E minor, and A minor. That's really, really cool and really, really helpful for us, especially as we start getting into relative major and relative minor kind of ideas. To be like a little brief in this, especially if you have like a circle of fifths, this is very helpful, as you'll see that there, for every major key kind of key, you have a minor key that's related to it, just like I've talked about before. And if you're trying to figure out your first chord, your fourth chord, and your fifth chord for the minor tonality, all you need to do is start from the relative minor and then move up. And for our purposes, for the key of A minor, no sharps and no flats, because it is the relative minor of C major. It's the related minor to C major. That would be our 1 chord. Our 4 chord would be D minor. And our 5 chord would be E minor. And you could always change it if you wanted to, so you can get a little bit more movement and finality to that chord. But anyway, I'm digressing hard. Just know that that minor chord there is very, very important when we start thinking about those kind of things. But last but not least, we have our 1 diminished chord, being B diminished in this case. And those are all our scale tone triads for the key of C, just at the very basic level. We have within all of the keys, if we're just playing our scale tone triads, we have our major chords, we have our minor chords, major chords, and our minor chords. And we also have our diminished chords. We also have our diminished chords for every given key. Now, remember, those for the key of C are going to be found on the root note, then travel up 4. There's our 4 chord to the 5th, 5 chord. Then for our minors, that's going to be the 2nd note of the scale to find the root note, and then the 3rd, and the 6th. And then if we run into a song that is super fancy and it has a diminished chord in it, it most likely will be this. There can be other diminished chords as well, but that's a whole nother topic, which is very fun. And if I don't get into it, Lord willing, like, you should totally, because it's very, very cool. But then we have B diminished. And those are our scale tone triads. Now, I made it as simple as possible because there is another way of going into this that is a little bit heady, or a little bit more heady. And for those that have stuck along this far, I'm going to go there. So, based off of what I understand about this kind of stuff when it comes to harmony, when it comes to scales, before we had scales, we had what were called modes, specifically the church modes. Now, I don't know everything that there is to know about the church modes, but I do know that there were different ways of talking about these notes as we play them. So, staying within the key of C, where we have all sharps, or sorry, no sharps, no flats, all natural notes, we would get something like this. Now, those modes that I just played, they have different names as well. So remember, we've been learning like the major scale and all that kind of stuff, right? That's what we have been blessed with by the Lord. Before that, we actually referred to them, or people referred to them, and we still do, people that mess around with modes, as the modes, this being the Ionian mode. I don't know where the names came from, but they definitely sound cool. And then next, when we move to the second position and we play the same kind of pattern with just the notes that we've been given, we have the D Dorian mode. Then next we have our E Phrygian. Then for F, we have our F Lydian, or the fourth note of the scale. Then G Mixolydian. A Aeolian. B Locrian. And then C Ionian again. have heard these tones used like within other songs, and there are plenty of players that will actually utilize these modes in different kinds of music, especially like the Lydian or the Mixolydian mode. And there are some that we commonly know as just major and minor scales today. And then the relative minor to that, A minor, we could just know that as A minor. But before that, before these scales, they were known as these church modes. And if you want to get like farther into that, I've only gone so far. So if you want to get more into it, definitely check out that stuff and, you know, read up on what you can. And, you know, like YouTube is really great to like just look at documentaries and stuff on music. So there's that as well. But in regard to like figuring out our chords, if I'm focusing on each of those modes, appealing to them as the starting place to find my third and to find my fifth, I could just find the root, third, and fifth from each of those modes within the scale, and that being within the key of C. So remember, had C Ionian, or we know as C major, but C Ionian for now. And we had our root being on the first note, third note, fifth, boom, there's our major triad. If we're playing D Dorian, and we're trying to find our root, third, and fifth, then boom, we're already here. Minor third, and then perfect fifth. And the same for E Phrygian. And so on. That was the more complicated way of figuring out these chords. But this has been a really, really lengthy lesson. I know that there could be longer, but thank you for hanging tight. This stuff is really helpful to get down in your noggin, because like as soon as you want to start bending the rules, if you will, and messing around with other chords that aren't just scale tone triads, being able to know these scale tone triads really helps you to be able to like see, okay, well that's the thing, and so like I want to do something different. How does it work, and how can I explain that? Or, you know, obviously you could just play whatever sounds good. I did that for years, didn't need this stuff, but as soon as I learned this stuff, and as soon as you learn this stuff, hopefully it benefits you. But yeah, this has been Scale Tone Triads. God bless you, and Lord willing, I will see you in the next lesson. If you need any help, remember that you can leave a comment or email me, and that you can also get a video response from me if you send one as well. But yeah, God bless you, and Lord willing, I will see you in the next lesson.